Okay, I'm here at a Quaker meeting house in Centerville, Delaware. Now this meeting house is old. This is older than any meeting house I've ever seen before. Basically, this dates back to 1687. Now this structure you see behind me probably wasn't here. A lot of these extremely early Quaker structures were made out of logs, where they worshipped at. This building here probably dates from about 1720 to about 1740. Excuse me. Now, as you see, this structure, it remains exactly like it would back then. Really, nothing's changed here, except for the noisy road in back of us here. Now, Quaker meeting houses, the Quakers themselves, it was a religion. It was based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was a derivative of the Lancaster Dutch, or the Mennonite culture. The Quakers were a group of individuals. Now, William Penn himself was a Quaker. If you ever see Quaker Oats, you'll see a brown suit, and they had round hats. Now, that's an old Quaker. Quakers today still worship in the same kind of worship that they did back then. I'll get into that in a little bit. But about this building back here. Now, I drive by this building. It's in Centerville, Delaware. It's on 926. The building here is extremely old for its time. Now, as you see, the bricks are old. The benches outside would have been inside. Quaker meetings at this time were held. Usually it was about 3 meetings a week. They'd have a midweek meeting. They would have a Sunday meeting also. A lot of people from the community that were Quakers in this area would generally come to this building here to worship. Now, Quakers believed in a couple things. They just didn't believe in any flashiness. As you see Quaker buildings today, you'll see that these structures are extremely plain. They blend into the environment very precisely. Now, they didn't believe in flashiness. They believed in squares. They believed in things that didn't show off their religion. They didn't want symbols like a cross or anything like that. They just wanted to be known as peaceful people that worshipped in a building. Now, Quakers were allowed to worship in any types of buildings. You know, as long as there was more than 2 or 3 people, they were allowed to worship God in any building they preferred. Now, this happened during the Battle of Brandywine when the Birmingham meeting house, which we were at in another video, was taken over by the American Army early on around September 3rd. They brought their wounded there. So the Quakers had to find another meeting house, which was in a town, the next adjacent town over, in a wheelwright shop. Now, Quakers believed that they can worship wherever they please, which was fine. Now, the building behind me, they would assemble in the building. Everything would be quiet. There would be no talking in this building. Now, the windows that you see in back of me are high. They're not down by the ground floor. Now, there's a reason for this. Now, Quakers believed that when you were worshiping, you were remaining silent, you were sitting on a wood bench, and you were just letting God come to you. Now, the windows here were high for a reason. They were high because they didn't want the Quakers to see out when they were worshiping. They made sure that the windows were high enough so the outside world didn't interfere with their worship at the time. Now, this is kind of different from a lot of religions you see today, where there's a lot of hymns, there's a lot of Bibles, and you know, there's a preacher talking about you know, what you do in life, what the righteous path is. Now, Quakers weren't like that. They were different people. What they believed in silence. That the silence would make you a better person. That you thought about God. That you thought about these things. And that happened in this building here. Now, a lot of Pennsylvania Quakers, it was a main religion during around the 1720s. A lot of the immigrants that came over and built and farmed and built houses in this area were Quakers. And they were generally, just like I said, they were extremely peaceful people. They just believed they wanted to farm their land and you know, attend their meetings on every three times a week. Now, the building here is really nice. The building here has shingles that are made out of wood. That would have been like it would have been back then. It doesn't have anything man-made. Now, over on my right-hand side here, there's a shed. This would be where they would store their firewood or things that they would use inside. It would be for maybe carriages they would put there also. Now I'll pan around to get an idea of this area. Now this area hasn't changed very much. Now there's a school right across the street here. Now this school right here was converted into a home. This would have been the school for the area, for Centerville, Delaware. Now these one room, or they call themselves in Bell schools, or one room schoolhouses, they were generally in this area. Now a lot of these exist today. People transfer them into their residence. They make schoolhouses their homes. But like I said, Quakers were very interesting people. Now, I've met a lot of Quakers. I met Quakers in Philadelphia. When we were walking around Philadelphia, I came across a really large Quaker meeting house. It was one of the largest I saw. And we talked to some Quakers there. They're nice, extremely nice people. They don't believe in warfare. They don't believe in guns. They don't believe in anything that will hurt another human being, which is kind of a great religion when you think about it. You know, that can worship in peace and have peace, put upon them. Now, another thing about the building here, this would have been an agricultural area. This building here maybe would have had one tree around it. It would have been completely treeless in the area here. The Quakers would have used their cart paths during this time. Now, there's a couple of them in this area here. They would have walked to the meeting house. A lot of times what you'll see is a road that's called a meeting house road. Now, that was the main thoroughfare to these buildings. Now, like I said, there's other Quaker meeting houses that have cart paths that lead directly to these buildings. Now I'm going to pan around here and you're going to get an idea of the shed in back of me, and there's a cemetery in the back also. But I just wanted to zoom in on the church that was converted into a house also. As you see over here, I left the camera a little different over here. I should have put it up higher. But this is their barn. This is where they would store their firewood, basically. They would store different material over here. Then in the back, you see a wall. That would surround their meeting house. Now, Quaker cemeteries were a little different during this time. Quakers believed in a lot of plainness. They didn't like flashiness. Even when they died, they didn't believe that they should have a headstone. Now, I was in Philadelphia and I was talking to some Quakers in Philadelphia, and they had a stone. It was actually somebody's tombstone, and it said it belonged to a doctor. And I was a little bit, I asked the woman there, I said, why is there a tombstone? I thought Quakers didn't have tombstones. She said that during an excavation they wanted a new ramp to the street. They were digging a foundation for the road, and they found that they struck a tombstone underneath the ground. Now, during this time, there was a yellow fever epidemic around 1790 in Philadelphia, and it killed a lot of people. A lot of these Quakers died in the area, but when they were buried with a tombstone, but they put the tombstone underneath the ground and covered it over. They wanted to be remembered, but they didn't want any flashiness. Now, Quaker cemeteries, if you look in them, it looks like just a field. There's nothing there. But if you notice, there's some tombstones there. This would dictate people of extremely high status in the Quaker society, but I would think that most of the Quakers are buried in unmarked graves. They just are buried in the cemetery next to the meeting house, which is clear over here, right next to us. There's a cemetery here with no tombstones either. Now, as far as, the battle itself, the Quakers weren't involved in the Battle of Brandywine. During this time, the Quakers were farming people in the area. They didn't want to get involved, but, some were kind of forced into, battling. Some were forced into service for the British. There was a meeting going on in a couple areas during the battle. So when the British came by, a lot of these people didn't even pay any attention to them. The British walked by like they were just another people just passing the meeting house. They didn't want to even look out the window. It's kind of ironic, I was saying before that, you see all these British soldiers and these Quakers didn't even look out of their meeting house when there was a battle going on right outside their door. But this meeting house here is one of the oldest ones that I've seen so far, very old. This structure itself is not old. Now the structure itself, like I said, was logs. It was most likely logs. But the date on here is 1687. It was incorporated, as they say back then, but the building doesn't date till then. But this is a fine example of a beautiful meeting house in the rural suburbs of Wilmington, Delaware, which is Centerville, Delaware.